Hello everyone, and welcome to another Pathfinder adventure card game scenario. We are with the character Drelm at the Sky Pharaoh's throne, where at this location, the difficulty of your checks against Banes that have the mummy trait is increased by 4. And also, after you are dealt damage that is not reduced, vary one random card from your discard pile. So looking at Drelm, this is the character we're playing with, and this is Scenario B6, the final scenario in the basic level. And I think this is Drelm's 4th attempt trying to close this location. It's very challenging, which is kind of what I like. The only update really is that Drelm did find what was it? The crook. That new weapon, I think it's the King's Crook or something like that. So that might help him out this scenario. But as it is, he can't go to a trader or level up until he closes this location. So we are advancing the Blessings deck. It's a Blessing of the Elements. Alright, and the first card is the Widow and Dearly Departed. Alright, well that's kind of a change. So, first thing, Human Sorcerer, Charisma Diplomacy 10. Fortunately, we have a Blessing of the Elements. Let's see, recharge this card. It says discard this card to add 1 die to any check. And if this had any of the elemental traits, we could recharge it. But as it is, we will discard the Blessing of the Elements in order to roll 2d6, and we have to roll a 10 or higher, because just Drelm has no other positive modifiers. Let's see what happens. Alright, so we rolled a 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's not enough. But fortunately, we have the Feather of Matt. So the Feather of Matt allows us to add 1 to our die. And we can recharge it. Alright, so how about that? Maybe something is finally working out for Drelm here. So he was able to pass the first test. Now, on to the next test. So what we're going to do here is we only have 3 cards left in our hand. So we do have a Copish, but first of all we have to, if defeated, well anyway, this one is a mummy, the second check, and he's immune to medicine and poison, so we have to, but since it's a mummy, we have to add +4. So in our hand we have the Copish, which we're going to be using. We also have another Blessing of the Elements. And we have the Crocodile Skin Madu. So we have some cool options to help us stop this menace which has been plaguing us for so long. So the Copish, we're going to go ahead and we're going to discard it so we can add 1 to each die you roll. Okay, so we're definitely going to discard that. And we also are going to be recharging this card to add 1d4 and the piercing trait to your melee combat check. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're gathering our dice, the d4 for the Crocodile Skin Madu, then we have the d10 for the Copish with a d8, and then we have the Blessing of the Elements for another d10, and all these 4 dice we get to add 1 to each roll. Plus we have a melee modifier of +3, so we're adding 7 to this roll, and we need an 18. Alright, so 10, 16, 17, 18, 19, plus I believe it was 7, so 26, more than enough. So then, if defeated, you may immediately succeed at an intelligence. So anyway, this is, so we're not playing with the panic deck, but I think basically what I'm going to do reading this card is that we can just immediately attempt to close the location this henchman came from, and when closing, bury your discard pile. So we are finally able to, well, I am doing some shenanigans with this. This isn't going to be a scenario where I'm just going to run through the whole location deck in order to close it, because when closing it's fairly simple. So that's what I'm going to do. Drelm was finally successful at closing the basic level of the Sky Pharaoh's throne. Of course, he's going to have to go back here another 6 times before he meets the Sky Pharaoh. So let's go ahead and do a deck check. So go ahead and do some, well, no technical difficulties there. Alright, well, let me know in the comments what you thought about that. Excuse me, that scenario. Kind of glad about how it turned out. So let's go ahead and let's look at the deck here. So this is the state of Drelm's deck. There's the Fighting Crook. That's what it was called, that he gained the last scenario. Kind of helped him out. Here's some of the Crocodile Skin Madu, Blessing of the Elements, Planet Clansman, that. Okay, so this is Drelm's deck right here. And what he can do now, since, well, of course, the reward for this scenario is that he gets a power feat. So pretty exciting. Drelm is going to go straight up and do this one. On your check against a card that has the obstacle or trap trait, you may add your divine skill. So he's often encountered many traps that have hindered him, but now he's got that. And what we can do now is we can go ahead and meet a trader. We'll go ahead and visit the Smiths of Wati. And you know what? Let's go ahead and, instead of him, let's go ahead and see what kind of, let's go meet Falsine Deek. I'm really curious to see what that scenario has really shown me, that Drelm really needs something to buff up his charisma. So I'm just kind of curious if there are any items here in the basic level that'll help bump up his charisma. So that one. Okay, well, Falsine Deek isn't offering anything really interesting. The Flash Freeze, the Compass we've seen before, the Smoke Glasses. You charge this card to add 1 die to your check that invokes the electricity or fire trait. I mean, that may be useful. I mean, but this one, examine cards, look at your location, construct or fire trait. We can add D12, or we can add strength or melee to disable check. So these are all cool, but I was kind of looking for something a little more with charisma. So well, we will just have to wait for some other time. Alright, well, that's the end of the scenario. Kind of glad it was short, because that was getting to be a very kind of a difficult scenario. Not impossible, but definitely challenging. I think it took Drelm 4 times. But that's it. Hopefully you liked this scenario, and I will have another scenario up shortly, and we're going to be starting level 1 with the character Drelm in the Mummy's Mask campaign. Alright, well, thank you so much.